Next up, speaking of the Ukraine, Russia's attack on the Ukraine, it's looking like a shit show now, D'Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, well, it looks like a shit show. That's the key.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
But is it really is the question.
I keep saying this. If you're going in to do a raid on a compound or something like that, or whatever it is, you either surround the place, right? Mm-hmm. Or you push into what would be enemy territory enough to disrupt two things: supply lines and their ability to launch a quick reaction for secure ref and do something. Russia wants Donetsk and Luhansk because of their natural gas, and it's fucking a brutal move, right? Certainly, I don't agree with them doing it, but the strategy makes sense to me, and that they went to Kiev and Lviv, the two largest, most powerful cities in Ukraine.
They didn't go to Lviv.
Well, they were on that convoy south from Belarus.
South, yeah.
And there was the threat of going to Lviv. But yeah, you're right. They never actually went there. But cutting those two things off from being able to come over and respond to what they're doing in the east, and then deciding to once they feel like that part's weakened, turn their forces back in and collapse on their actual target. That's a pretty standard military strategy to me. So it looks like chaos to the uninitiated, but it's not.
So, going to Drudge Report here, because Drudge is essentially just a curator for the top articles.
Aggregator, yeah.
Yeah. Around the fucking internet. Well, he curates them too. Like, he doesn't just let anything.
No. They make their own. Yeah,
he doesn't. He doesn't just let anything come on there.
They also rewrite their own headlines for stuff.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to read these. Blast. This is the first one. Blast badly damages flagship of Russian Black Sea Fleet. Crew evacuated. Hit by missiles traveling 650 miles an hour. Polish Baltic presidents visit Ukraine in show of support. This last one, Vlad losing control of his own spiraling minions. All of these articles make it seem like Russia is losing this war. Everywhere you turn on Twitter or Washington Post, New York Times, it seems like Russia's losing this war. And they're not, is what you're saying, right?
No.
Okay.
Are they?
So then why all the fodder for this bullshit?
Well, I mean, you want to shape propaganda is important during times of war, right? Ukrainian people who are still fighting this need to have hope. And the Russians who are fighting it need to not have hope. So that's important from a propaganda standpoint. But it's also important in the same way that when a presidential election happens, if early returns on the East Coast show like huge turnout for one party or the other, it tends to not energize the base, right? So if Republicans dominated the entire East Coast, people on the West Coast, lefties on the West Coast, would show up in lesser numbers typically because people want to be part of a winner, right? And it's also been shown to affect the way people vote as well. Like if you're a middle ground voter and you're like, it's close, but I'm going to vote for this guy,
right?
And your guy that you were going to vote for is getting hammered, you vote for the other guy, right? Typically, so it's an important part of propaganda to portray one side is winning, your side is winning, and the other side is losing. That's nothing new.
But can the people of Ukraine read all this shit? Like, are they getting any of this info? Like,
sure, they have the internet there.
Okay.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, have they still not knocked out all the communications? I know Elon Musk, ironically, was supposed to launch free internet or Starlink for them.
Yeah, I believe they did already.
It did. Okay. All right. Because I'm just wondering, like, who this helps? Because it's not us.
I mean, it helps us for Russia to be weaker, certainly. So the more time and energy and resources, including a lot of their top-level generals have been killed, the more they have to spend on this, the better for us, because then they have to spend the next 15 years regrouping before they can do any other bullshit, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, that in a way, that's good. Yeah, that's the campaign we should be running, not sending billions of dollars worth of aid and weapons to a fascist, which is what Zelensky is. He's a fascist, right?
But it seems like every time in history we've sent weapons to somebody, it never turned out well.
No.
I can't name one time. Can you?
No.
Not once. In the history of us and war.
No one like this, right? I mean, it would be different if it was a non-hybrid country, like an actual republic or democracy.
Yeah, South Korea was okay.
Yeah, South Korea worked out pretty well. Like they were intent on a representative government, but Zelensky's not. Like he's a fascist, straight up fascist, shutting down opposition news. Like he's basically just Justin Trudeau, but in Ukraine.
Yeah, but
like
whiter.
No. Yeah. I mean, it depends on the day. Justin Trudeau.
If Castro's the daddy, that's a little Latino in that blood.
Trudeau likes to go blackface, so
that's true.
But yeah, is he allowed to now that if Castro's his dad?
I don't think he's admitted that publicly.
Okay.
But we can do a DNA test.
I would love to. Maury just got canceled. I'd love to bring Maury back for this. You are the father. But I guess Fidel's dead, right?
Well, then he's allowed to do brownface.
Yeah, that's true. That would clean up that scandal pretty quickly.
All you need to do is get some of Trudeau's like hair, really, right?
A nice lock of hair? That'd be great.
So Anton Barbashin, who we mentioned on this, he's a Russian political analyst. He's kind of been talking recently about how Putin's keeping the overall goal really close to the vest.
Yeah.
Like the Chechens didn't know about these latest moves they were going to make. That may be a mistake. It may be good policy. I don't know. But Putin is not a military leader. He's an intelligence officer, right? There's a big difference between those two things. So you're probably going to see some fucking dumb strategy from time to time. But overall, he's just fighting this as if it were fucking World War II or Korea or some shit. So there's a lot of fucking weird shit going on over there.
Well, you know this too, like with Americans in particular. The longer this drags on, the less they will care. And you know it because you lived it.
Yeah.
And these stories will start to end because they won't get clicks anymore.
Yeah.
No one's going to fucking care on day 114. You know, they're going to be like, all right, sweet. Is there anything new? Did he get his head chopped off?
Yeah.
No? Then I'm moving on.
I have a question for Dan. With Sweden and Finland both accelerating talks to join NATO, specifically like in the early parts of June, would that cause Russia to then like move north?
No, they don't have the capability. Sweden and Finland have, Sweden especially has a really good army. I mean, they don't fuck around. Well, it's a Marines, but they don't fuck around up there.
The Soviet Union didn't go so well for them the last time they invaded Finland.
Finland, yeah, as well. Finland sniped and cross-country skied Russia to death. I'm not even kidding. So there was a unit of Finnish soldiers who were trained, and so a bunch of Americans went over to the train with them, too, before they invaded Northern Europe to go into the Alps and shit, to cross-country ski with machine guns and shit. So, yeah, I mean, that's rough terrain up there.
Yeah.
And Finland knows it quite a bit better than Russia does. So they'd be fucked going there anyways, and then you got to go through there to get to the other ones. So.
And by the way, that's the Soviet Union who likes to not steal valor because they did help beat the Nazis, but they like to be like, we were the good guys. We're the ones who really beat the Nazis. They helped invade Poland with the Nazis.
Yeah.
And then
they also killed 28 million Jews after the fucking war. So
right. And then they invaded Finland, which was its own sovereign situation. Yeah. Like they just wanted to take that back. Fuck Russia.
Yeah, Russia is like, it's just a weird place, man. They operate like an empire still, and we don't do that. Human beings don't do that anymore.
Right.
Like they think that it's something to do to go out and try to capture territory and shit, but we don't do that anymore.
I really think like you've said this to me, and I've heard other veterans say this, that like going to Afghanistan and Iraq, they're just like 400 years behind. Yeah. Like the people, like it's like almost, it's as close as you can get to going in a time machine, essentially.
It's like watching BTS at the Grammys.
Yeah, it's like walking into those societies is about as close as you can ever get to going back in time. And this is another situation where it's like, yeah, they're operating like it's 1820, not 2020.
Yeah, I mean, they're fighting this like it's an early 20th century battle, and you can't do that anymore. Because it used to be like if this was World War II, we wouldn't have the equipment to be able to get the stuff that Ukraine needs there without Russia being able to try to interdict some way, right? So that's how we got into World War II in the first place. We were sending arms and food and money and shit on ships over to England, and German U-boats were just blowing them up, right?
Right.
And then we fucking started talking shit and blah blah blah. That's pretty much how we got. Like, before Pearl Harbor ever happened, we lost thousands of people on those boats and stuff like that. Now, you can fucking airlift artillery and anti-aircraft guns immediately.
Yeah.
Like, you just drop them places and fucking set up. So, it's a different world now. Russia's in the past. So, from that perspective, they are bound to not do as well as they could have done if they had a more modern force. But they still have quite a bit more power than Ukraine does. And their strategy is pretty clear, it seems to me, at this point. Like early on, I speculated that they might want to pull a regime change. And that I don't think is the case. Maybe they wanted to, but they gave up on that pretty quickly and just focused on those two centers on the East that they want. And now they're collapsing back on that territory to completely take it over, which seems like, kind of proof that that's what they're doing here. So we'll see. I don't know. It does seem like a shit show, though. Like, for real, regardless of whether they're accomplishing their goal of taking over those portions of the East or not, they could have done this a lot more efficiently, put a lot more pressure on the Capitol, and this should have been like a fucking 45-day operation and not going past 60 now.
Right.
Honestly.